Welcome back to some professional StarCraft 2. Let me introduce to you, often featured, but never get tired of, the Terran in the bottom. Right, in the blue, Micro Jackson. It is ByuN. Up against his American counterpart, probably the best Protoss player outside of Korea, and making a good case for fighting there as well. Qualifying for GSL, and now battling against one of its most storied competitors, the Battle Mage. It's Astrea. Best of 3 PVT. I'm excited to see if there's a twist, another style, something that Astrea can bring out. Recently, it's been a tough matchup for the Protoss, who have been kind of few and far between, and ByuN takes every little edge you can possibly get and slices them up for it. So if you want to see the best player from the United States of America, take it home. Or if you want to see ByuN put him in his place, I'll ask you to like, subscribe, and Jimmy. Oh. So that's how you... I still don't know. I've never seen someone able to do that. Well, one more time. Sometimes we ask ourselves whether or not we could, rather than whether or not we should. But I'm asking you to answer either. Like, subscribe, Jimmy. 1,056? I know it's hard. Those are big numbers. 1,056 likes. I'll cast another series. I'm open to recommendations. I may ignore those recommendations, but I'm not going to shut down the idea. Unlike Astrea was able to shut down that very first Reaper, it did get the Scout of the Twilight Council with that bounce in. Didn't quite see... yeah, he didn't see the third yet. Oh no, this is filthy. Widow Mine drop. If the probes retreat the wrong direction, I think that's going to be found out by one of them. They'll just scamper down here. Warps in. There's actually like no pylons in the main base. Besides right at the Reaper wall, so... that means ByuN unable to get much done with the Widow Mine drop to start, and he did commit a lot to this, as ByuN went for a little bit of a later expo in favor of getting the factory out. Usually Widow Mine drops hit around 4 minutes and 30 seconds. In this case, he hit 10-15 seconds earlier than that with 3 mines, which means he got that quick tech intending to keep Astrea off balance, but it's going to be ByuN who's the one off balance in turn. Raven spotted as the follow-up. Already a robotics bay on the way. Third Nexus is completed. Astrea's, I'm not even going to call it greed, but it's very macro-focused. 3 Nexus play coming strongly through here. As Widow Mines, their one major weakness is they can't kill buildings. So the Widow Mines, and to an extent the Raven, not going to do much to slow down the expansion speed. But the Marines and tanks, on the other hand, may have a crack at it. The Observer in position, the Adept as well. We'll see this coming. How many gateways? Astrea's still only on 2 gates. Here comes ByuN, dropping out another round of Widow Mines. Picking up. He's trying to get more. There is no armory, right? Well, a Stalker gets shaved off on the right flank. The Raven is still waiting for its moment here. Widow Mines are dealt with, but really 3 Stalkers is not going to be a deadly force. ByuN getting in position to siege, and the Stalkers are going to be no match. The siege tanks are ready. Unleashing that high velocity firepower. Auto turret trying to drag things apart, and now this is where it gets dicey for any Protoss player. With ByuN splitting the forces between 3 different bases. Blugs on the siege tanks. Colossus juggles back into the shield battery overcharge. It looks like the Stalkers will be able to get the tanks. Colossus still intact. And surgically removes the siege tank push. Loses 8 probes in total. And, well, I think ByuN got most of what he came for, which is shaving off some of Astrea's units, and more importantly, limiting his economy. And right now, Astrea, 53 to 48 probes. He lost a few throughout the various angles of that attack. And his tech is not looking incredible right now. He's not going to have +1. He just got 2 more gates, going up to 6 now from the 4. He's got 2 Colossi and extended thermal lands, but if ByuN ends up losing any of these medevacs, already going to be dropping out. He used the boost too early. I think an observer caught this just in time. And cutting off, intercepting these medevacs is a big part of regaining momentum in a matchup that is incredibly heavily based on it. Astrea boxing out ByuN's drops. There's still the Raven at the back of the base, hanging out. Continually tweaking the air, calling out, saying, "Hey, none of you guys can fly. I thought you were supposed to go Stargate early on." and that's my interpretation of what a Raven sounds like. If you subscribe, I will stop forever. Which is probably a good idea. Anyways, +1/+1, or +1 stim and combat shield. The triple threat is done, and ByuN, he is ready to move out yet again. This time, I think, to take his third. But Astrea's done a good job of keeping his fly up, especially after taking out that medevac. The boy who lived. Oh my god. Oh, not only the literal victory there of saving the observer, but the mental victory of being able to get that observer away just barely in time. It wasted a scan. That's a couple hundred minerals from a mule. It could have been. And it didn't. Like, the observer is one of the squishiest units in the game. So it has the same HP as a probe. And what did you do, ByuN? Nothing against it. But instead, he's going to be going to a crazy base trade as ByuN is already stimming and tearing through the front. The third base is in flight right now. Boys pulled into the main. Does Astrea recall? If or when is really the question. The Terran army. Never base traded Terran, they say. This is a curious circumstance, as most of the units, ByuN's units, are kind of caught in purgatory here. But they're the ones breaking out as well. We don't mind taking out that observer who survived. The production from Astrea is being ripped out, but ByuN is in flight. So neither player are going to be able to produce particularly many more units. 44 SCVs went down. Astrea is not a coward. He doesn't go for the recall at the first sign of an adverse circumstance, but instead will make sure that ByuN does not have the ability to build more units. I think Astrea is confident in his army as long as it's all together, but the boys are pulled in one of the most convoluted fashions possible. Where is the recall? This is the last Nexus. Astrea has enough money in the bank for another one. The production tab kind of useless right now. Let's go over to the units tab and see. 3 Colossi. That is a huge deal. A colossal deal, if you would. Astrea expands to ByuN's former third. ByuN, his command centers are headed all around the map. The army supply is in favor of Astrea, but the upgrades and mobility still go to ByuN. The medevacs are out of energy entirely, and Astrea is ready to meet him as he tries to come up the ramp. There's not going to be much opportunity to pick up and get out. Not everyone can fit in the medevacs. They didn't bring enough for everyone. They didn't bring enough for the SCVs. ByuN expected Astrea, I think, to retreat at some point. But instead, Astrea focused his efforts on gutting the base. But there's only so many probes left. ByuN may be going directly for the win, or at least the draw. But Astrea still has enough money for another Nexus. A handful more stalkers in the main, but they still have teeth. They try to cut into one of those medevacs, gets half of it. And the Colossi. ByuN is on the run. There's nowhere left for him, but Astrea has not rebuilt his base and is being revealed. And then he does, and ByuN realizes that's check and mate. As with the best hope for ByuN was that Astrea did not have the minerals or the gas to rebuild a Stargate, and then he could sit in a corner and force a draw. That was what ByuN was fighting for, I think, by the end. But as soon as Astrea rebuilt that base, it became clear that he would eventually be able to regather those resources and prevent the draw. And that's why ByuN tapped out immediately. Astrea holds the line and battles back. And the American Protoss puts ByuN on the back foot in game 1. Astrea, it's so many players just recall at the first sign of trouble. Or like a second later than that, and then I criticize them for it. But Astrea never recalled. Not that that's necessarily something to be lauded in and of itself, but he knew he had the better army, and the best chance was to just cut off ByuN's production and make sure he could whittle down the army left. And that isn't it. I can't stress how hard of a call that is to make. But Astrea makes the right one. And ByuN. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I know it's ByuN, but no, Astrea. Yeah. Astrea takes game 1. Oh no. The chase is on. The probe. ByuN tried for the citizen's arrest. Another SCV. He's gonna get away. Alright. But ByuN is not in frustration, just like that observer last game. Traumatized. ByuN did not send out an SCV scout, by the way. Alright, that was top notch. Astrea's been getting so good. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
Fair, fair. Yeah, he deserved it. Overstayed his welcome by just a little bit. Doesn't take too many hits past the shields to knock out that probe. I think Astrea was taunting him a bit with it. Having it still around at that stage. Well. So, no extra scouts here. Not the end of the world. But definitely a bit of vengeance for ByuN. A Hellion. Now this could be lining up as one of those one base. Ooh. 3-minute third. What? One century expand. Well, no fear here. Taking full advantage of ByuN's lack of scouting. I don't believe it was quite this dramatic last game. No, he was going for the 2-gate blank, which is quite a greedy build, but not... Now, this is... The sentry is mostly there to check tickets on the way on to the train, alright? You guys... Papers, please. Hellions run by. It's like, okay, then. I guess. As... Well, Astrea confirming. He already knew about the expansion before. Or at least suspected it. But Astrea confirming there's not really anything to be scared of right now, so he's gonna get away with this obscene... Not even obscene. Terrans have been making 3cc with like a Reaper for years, and Protoss can't get away with it with a Sentry. The beauty of the Sentry too is it only costs 50 minerals, which leaves pretty much everything for the Nexus. The scouting with hallucination to confirm the Artosalope getting pushed out of the way here.
Who does that?
But hanging out as well. I think the Tastalope is somewhere around, but. Sometimes, especially nowadays, they're usually quite separated, unfortunately. Robotics facility completed, but this is a bare bones yet fierce attack out of ByuN. He's gonna drop on top, and that's a siege tank. Blasts apart a sentry. Oh, they'll get away for now, but there's no shield battery. There's barely any units. ByuN shows up yet again. Making a mountain out of a marine hill here. And there's not much to deal with this. A handful. There's no blink. Is he gonna pull the probes? He pulls the probes. Trying to minimize the damage to the stalkers. Now it's gonna hurt his economy, but he does have 3 bases. 13 probes slaughtered on the field. But Astrea will keep the base alive. And that Nexus will probably make more than 13 probes throughout its lifetime, which makes this technically a cost-effective... No, well... Astrea, very decisive. This is how he's gone from a player who I had enough MMR to face on the ladder, like 5-6 years ago. Yes. Astrea, mid-GMNA, to one of the best in the world. Lots of practice, but also just confidence in yourself. Especially as Protoss, you can't go back and forth on a fight. Once you get involved, you kind of got to stick it out. You don't really have a lot of exit strategies. You turn your back and the Marauders will break your knees, or the Zerglings will close in. So dictating the pace of a fight and taking the initiative is a significant percentage of top-tier Protoss. I remind you of Zest, our Lord and Savior, and icon. What kind of icon? I can't say that on a family-friendly video, but Zest, who would walk up in your face with 3 Stalkers against, like, 6 Marauders and 10 Marines, and players would flinch because, wait, is that enough? No, but he'd do it so confidently. You just assume he has more. No, just be afraid. Stray embracing some of that. Observer once again, by the way. Missed that saga. Another Observer took 2 scans to kill. ByuN somehow missing it with the largest radius ability in the game. Which is a bit embarrassing, I will say. I'm usually a ByuN fan, but my fellow Americans, Astrea is our best hope. From the School of Neeb, who's going back to school, by the way, which is why we don't see him here. Has semi-retired in that. But ByuN is not done yet. He's got the Liberator at the natural, killing some of the probes already. Gonna be carving his way in. This time, Widowmine. Is Blink? No. These are just a few gateway units, but there is a Colossus. The most important part. He's right-clicked on the Marines over there. Okay, it was funny at first. It's not funny at... Oh, no. Unfortunately, the Marines led him on a wild chase into a bunch more Marauders. And that's not the kind of confidence I'm talking about. The scouting Colossus is put down. And that is a colossal mistake. As without a second Colossus, it's going to be very hard to split units between the bases. As ByuN works every angle. A gaggle of Stalkers and Zealots is no match. There's no charge. There's no +1. There's really nothing here except basic units. And those just won't compete. With the Marines, the Marauders, Stim +1 combat shield, a few more units on the way out. On the way up, rather. But is there even a Twilight? There is a Twilight, but it's not upgrading anything as of yet. It has to recall over to the 3rd. Try to reposition. ByuN actually scanned it. He knew where those units came from, so he dove right back into the main. Oh, and ByuN. You give him an inch and he'll take a kilometer. As right now, he scanned the 3rd, saw the recall, and realized the main was right back opened up for business. 2-2 starts. So far, the only thing the Twilight Council has been able to accomplish is unlocking those upgrades. Charge is on the way, but it's a long way off. Astrea still at a pretty healthy supply, but much of it is in his worker lead. 70 to 55. Marauders on the low ground. Widowmines just dotting the field. There's only one Observer at the moment. There's no armory, but the mines themselves have to sacrifice the Zealots, which is, kind of their purpose, but another drop. ByuN picks up and heads to the main. The Stalker's getting targeted down, just ignoring the side blades of the Zealots. ByuN stimming past. Stutter stepping his way. Astrea bleeding on supply. 122 to 100. ByuN hitting the 3rd yet again. Recall on cooldown. Almost nothing here. A single Colossus. Shield battery taken out. Stalkers warped in. Still a probe advantage for Astrea, but he just can't keep up with the amount of aggression that ByuN is sending across the field. He wanted to take a 4th, I assume, a long time ago. But so far, has been unable to keep a hold of it. Starts that 4th Nexus. Templar Archives. 2-2, finishing up. But Astrea is on the ropes right now, make no mistake. The supplies might be about even, but the momentum of the Terran army is going to be tough to stop. If he gets to 2-2 and some Archons on the field, you know what? I didn't really realize how diligently he'd been pumping out those upgrades. I think sinking pretty much all of his Chrono Boost into them. He knows he needs some advantage, and that's going to be the best one he can access right now. All right, Astrea. 2-2 done, charge done, 6 gates. Everything a little thin here, but still none out of it yet. Couple charge lots, finally able to counterattack. Nothing to defend at the third, ByuN. A little out of position. This is the first sign of counter-aggression in Astrea. Gonna find a lot of damage, both in physical damage and pulling ByuN back. Ooh. Did not complete the warping. I think he's already kind of served his purpose, though, in pulling the army back and killing SCVs. He gets 14, 15 and counting. This is a kind of an obscene amount of damage, considering there's almost nothing happening. 19 kills. There's Storm on the way. Blink as well. Astrea right back in it. That was way more damage than you ever expect. 2 Zealots, well, and a few more in the main, but he not only did he kill workers, but he dragged the entire army back. He freed up the map. And now ByuN has only a small window, though he doesn't know it until Storm is complete. The Battle Mage may unleash that psionic storm upon his army. And yes, there are ghosts on the field, but with them being buried in a warp prism, and he's about to have it in the prism. 3 seconds, and that's all the force fields. The force fields, but the Terran army still slipping through. He didn't quite block it off. The Viking count is so damn high if you were ever going to lay down the storms. Now might very well be the time Astrea takes down some of the Vikings. ByuN is getting close. That prism looking real spicy, and the storms are beautiful. The storms wipe ByuN off the field, but he goes back into the sky with the Viking and is able to take out the prism. So that removes the continued threat of storms across the map. But Psionic Storm melting the Terran army, forcing the evacuation of the survivors, and the Vikings no longer nearly as much of a threat. But the Marauder count is still damn high. The medevacs are still on the field. The Observer will spot this army coming up, but still the army supply of ByuN is more than enough to be respected. A potentially game-ending amount of Terran, and this time the Ghosts are on the field. The Terran counterpart ready to negate as much of the Protoss army as possible, and really, most of it can. Feedbacks are good, but Storm is definitely better. Unfortunately, not enough energy there. More EMPs. Shield battery overcharge won't save Astrea, as ByuN is tearing through the resistance. And, oh, that's it. Yeah, ByuN finally cracks him. The storms kept him at bay, but they did not turn the tide. Well, ByuN strikes back. A great series. Honestly, I came into this expecting ByuN with a significant edge, but I think Astrea may be getting a little greedy. Part of the reason you don't expand so quick is you just delays your tech so much. And ByuN showing up with the smallest possible siege tank push, yet more than enough. The like 1 siege tank, 8 marines, and a medevac, which forced Astrea to pull probes. Well, a great series thus far, but there can only be one who wins. And we're gonna find out on Royal Blood. Game 3, 1-1, ByuN versus Astrea. I think the tech just, like, upgrades are good, but having 2-2 upgrades doesn't negate the fact that Stalkers are cyberbullied by Marauders. For a similar, in fact, Marauders are cheaper than Stalkers, but in large numbers especially, the Marauders with a few medevacs will easily win that fight. And they don't really respect Zealots much either. And that is why Protoss is so reliant, for better or worse, on those power units, the splash damage, the big upgrades, the storm, the colossi, the disruptors. Kind of crazy. We have seen 0 disruptors in a relatively mid-game best of 3. In 2 games that both went well into the mid-game. Not a single Ruptor from Astrea. The Storm, was it better than Ruptor? It was just a little too late. Storm feels like a rediscovered... It's like the Spear of a Doom, alright? Feels like we've rediscovered the lost technology of Storm. There were like 6 months or something where players just kind of stopped going for Storm. And you can already see, like, there's a good reason why Storm is not as popular, especially as an opener, and that reason is Ghosts. You don't really want to encourage the Terran to go Ghosts any earlier than they already do. But I think it does have its place, and of course with the Templar merging into Archons, which are unfortunately also countered by Ghosts. But at some point you can get enough of them. It is a tough one. I think it'd be... well, my number 1 change to Protoss, if I was to buff, and I think at this point we can, well, not to beat around the bush. I said that Protoss was getting a bit screwed in the balance patch at the beginning of the year, but a door, all right? I think we should give Protoss supply depots, okay? If they're playing against, you know what? Not even if they're playing against Terran. Let the probes warp in a phase depot. Doesn't even give supply. You can lower it and raise. It's just a supply. It's a supply depot, but it doesn't give supply. It costs 100 minerals. That's it. Or you can call it a gate. All right, we got warp gates. We got star gates. Gate. Build too many gates. Gate. Hashtag. All right. What a scandal. And all it does is create a wall. Now, is that very helpful against Terran? Not particularly. Against other Protoss and Zergs, though. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, feedback. Unless the Ghost has full energy, doesn't do enough damage to kill the Ghost. I think maybe we could look at that again. As it got nerfed many years ago, because feedback would one-shot even things like Medivacs, which was, in hindsight, pretty cool. But we've gone through a lot of iterations, and feedback is still one of the most impotent abilities overall, in my opinion. Well, it's a bio push. Enough balance wanting. Now we look at the balance of this particular match, economically and army-wise. Astrea has a 3rd base done, because of course he does. But he does have blank this time around, so much easier to maneuver against the Marines and Marauders. I think the blink is all the difference. It is a very brittle ability, but the best players have historically made such incredible use of it. Parting, MC, Zest, and now players like Astrea and Max Packs. And Max Packs especially has gotten insane with the Blink Stalkers, but there's so much value. It's very hard to toe the line, quite literally. It feels like they're towing a line with the Stalkers, tiptoeing around. But it is the best way to whittle down those bio pushes on the way across the map. ByuN makes a misstep, and the Blink Stalkers will just kind of pinhole him, especially before the Medivacs. And that gets you so much momentum. On top of that, this is scouting. This is what scouting looks like. The best way to scout is to get a bunch of dangerous units right up in their grill, because it's very likely they'll have to show you what they have in order to just defend them. So the most effective form of scouting is aggressively knocking on the door and seeing what answers. Astrea is now getting the rest of the tech tree. Maybe not all of it, but a significant portion, as he gets a robotics bay, a dark shrine, and a forge, along with 3 more gates and upgrading his charge. And why don't we throw a 4th Nexus on while we're at it? Astrea has looked at this 3 racks bio build and shaken his head and taken the rest of the map. He hasn't started the 4th Nexus. I don't think he will now that medevacs are clearly on the field. Observer. Siege is up there. Oh. Very dangerous army, but... Immortal on the way. Charge is completing soon. ByuN spots the Observer immediately. Double drop. Sent out. ByuN picks up. And heads ostensibly for the main, but just to split these units up. Divide and conquer. One of the best ways Terran players are able to get momentum in Protoss versus Terran, as those small groups of medevac-based bio units are so dangerous, even with such small amounts of supply. Colossus on the way. Extended Thermal Lance has begun. Another. He just keeps picking up. It's like a nervous tick for ByuN. It might literally be. Well, here comes the bio army. Astrea laying down the force field, stemming the tide. Force field's doing an okay job. Unfortunately, the Zealots do not have much range. Zoning out. Another round of Zealots comes in, blinks to the side. Own Widowmine comes in, triggers the Immortal Barrier. But ByuN driven back for now. And ByuN's still on 2 bases, though he has 6 medevacs. He picks up with 4. And where does he go? Take me on a journey, ByuN. Where are we headed? He scans. And he heads for the main. Well, here we go. DT warping on the other side. Proxy pylon being utilized. Some Widow Mines dropped out by the Cyber Core. DT is mixing in with the army. ByuN doesn't quite realize, I don't think. Working his way through the Marauders. The Twilight Council in the Forge may be taken out, but the DT is starting to slice up the army. Doesn't get the Twilight. DT's at the natural. Gonna keep ByuN busy. The Dark Templar already killing 7 SCVs, forcing out a scan back at home. And Astrea does have a 4th Nexus on the way. And right now, ByuN's army supply, though, is a lot to contend with. 83 to 46. Oh, Jimmy! How many times? Yes, we saw this moment, but oh my god, this Colossus. We're seeing another side of the story. I wanted to see the battle report, but... well... overall, Astrea has lost 1,300 to 300 gas, but not that a ton has been mined at the moment. More DT is wandering around. ByuN doesn't even have a 3rd command center. Astrea must hold. He's got 4 Nexi, which is more than even he needs. He just has to live through the next few minutes. Yes, ByuN can lift his main. There's a whole lot of army supply here. Some of the probes might even be caught. The medevacs are nearly out of energy after this much brawling and this many stims. The stalkers are trying to go forward and blink out of the mines. Not quite successful. Astrea, the Nexus itself, beaten down as the Marines and Marauders have far too much DPS. Oh, the probes may give away the 4th as well by their... oh no! Did ByuN see it? Oh, he saw it. I'm pretty sure he saw it. The very edge of those probes automatically transferring to the nearest location. He can't do anything about it yet, but this may give ByuN the opportunity to set up yet another attack. Well, more DT is taken out. The Quadra drop. Deja vu. I've just been in this base before. The Twilight. Astrea forced to recall. Twilight knocked down. Colossus on the wrong side of the Nexus. Marauders take it out as well. The 1 medevac without units is taken down as ByuN redirects towards the 4th. He remembered. He realized. And now Astrea with no recall. That's a lot of probes. That is a whole lot of his probes. That's most of his lead evaporating right now. 40 to 40. He actually has less workers. Oh, he's in the main with a few DTs. Warp Prism may be taken out here. DT's working on the SCVs. Both players are somehow supply blocked right now. Astrea beaten back towards his third. If he's able to bring his army to bear, he may be able to compete. The medevacs are constantly out of energy. Another Colossus on the way. ByuN's army is just so much larger. And he's able to split it into such effective parts that Astrea is really struggling to compete here. DT trying to slice through. Doesn't know where he wants to go. Ends up going nowhere at all. ByuN coming in from every side. The Colossi extended thermal lance, shield battery overcharge, helping out a bit. A lot of extra damage. Medevacs are entirely out of energy, which means the charge lots might be enough to slice their way through. Another DT warped in, somewhat desperately, but every scan is a little less economy. The third Nexus under fire yet again. Astrea can't really afford to lose this, but indeed he will. Oh no, it's a disaster for the American Protoss. So many economic hits. So many probes lost. Losing the third Nexus multiple times. He doesn't really have a lead in any fashion anymore. The one thing, he was never able to translate that extra economy into enough army supply to compete. And right now, the DTs are the only thing keeping ByuN busy. And they are an expensive tool. Diligently re-expanding. This is the main command center for ByuN, by the way. Ghost Academy on the way. Right next to it. Slowing things down a bit as neither player has the tools to rebuild very easily. ByuN, part of the reason he was able to get this much damage is simply Astrea's greed. He was able to keep the pressure on, but it did cost ByuN part of his economy. He never got a third command center. He's never had too many SCVs. And, well, there's a single Whittle mine, making things a little difficult here. There's an observer. Oh, far enough in. And ByuN will have to lift. The Ghost Academy itself, in awkward position. One of the tankiest buildings, by the way. Actually has a pretty disgusting amount of HP for the cost. Force fields try to isolate some of the bio. Mildly inconveniences it. The observer is taken out, which means those Whittle mines are now incredibly dangerous. Unlike before, when they were very incredibly dangerous. Disruptor on the way. The Desperation Ruptor, but Astrea knows he needs a bit of a Hail Mary here. While these supplies may be about even. Oh, well, trying for the fight, but the EMP hits almost every single sentry. And softens up the Colossi, the Stalkers as well. Not able to complete the round of force fields here. Bit of an awkward angle for ByuN, who was stuck behind some of them. But chasing down. Disruptor shot! He throws it for the win. And it hits nothing but air. The Marauders will chase. ByuN, another set of force fields will once again strongly discourage any further activities. And that's actually enough to isolate a handful of the units at a time. It looks like Astrea can work with that. Getting another Colossus. More force fields. The Ghost goes down. There's a DT on the other side. ByuN has re-landed. DT helping out during the fight as well. Scan has to be used. Blink Stalkers take advantage of the opportunity at Astrea. By that much. And of course, Astrea being Astrea will expand to another base. Throughout all this, he's won, not even bad, he's won mediocre fight. Oh no. Oh, this is what I heard of. ByuN, apparently his wrists were... I didn't know it was this series, I swear. Oh god. Well, that's a really tough ending. So ByuN has had some wrist issues. that I think most people know about, but they cropped up during ESL summer pretty badly. I can't imagine flying across the world and playing constantly over days helped, but wow, what a timing. So that is the unceremonious conclusion. Astrea will take it. Kind of by default in this case. I'm sure not a satisfying conclusion for anyone involved, but ooh, that is a tough one. I'm actually going to spend a second and verify that's exactly what happened here. I don't know. This is all the replays we have. I don't want to end like that. Nobody ever does. We get a taste of the live event feel here. This wasn't to decide who was in or out of the tournament, but at the same time, let me see. It did. Okay, so this was the seeding for the playoffs, but Astrea does take it 2-1. I wasn't sure if they regamed. So, I think, in my opinion, despite being somewhat ahead in the final game... Oh, that really hurts. Puns definitely not intended. Oh, but that is rough. So, ByuN does end up fighting through in later times in the tournament to get to the playoffs, by the way. As does Astrea to an extent. But, yeah. Well, that's quite a conclusion. Don't worry, I look forward to more ByuN in the future. He's had bouts of this before, which really does, that really sucks. But, I look forward to all the, backseat doctors now you can thank yourselves in the comments. Like, you've avoided such potential issues by instead of not playing, by instead enjoying the top tier play. Oh, that was shaping up to be a very dramatic conclusion, but I do think ByuN had the edge. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. A great series. And I'm sure Astrea's not happy about it either. Astrea not going to be like, oh yes, free win. No. Astrea's very competitive. But I look forward to them facing off in GSL next season. Who do you think will win? Good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. 1,056 likes. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.